Canada. They went to fight for it. And now there's dozens of basic conservation groups all over the world working to fight for sharks, working for a better future, which is amazing. So for us, the biggest thing was getting shark water out in China. We got Yao Ming, the basketball player, China's biggest celebrity in size and status. We do TV commercials for us. Jackie Chan's on board, Michelle Yeoh's on board, Richard Branson's on board. We got a lot of support behind us. And so we were about to get shark water released in China. And at the movie premiere in Hong Kong, the day before the movie goes out to 120 million people, a woman in the audience puts up her hand and says, "Why stop us from eating shark fin soup? If according to the United Nations, all the fish are going to be gone by 2048. Citing studies from Dalhousie University in Halifax, the pinnacle of oceanic fish population research centers, states that if current fishing trends continue, we'll have wiped out all the world's fisheries by 2048. Now this is a pretty serious predicament. It doesn't matter if we take sharks for fishing, if we're going to wipe out all of them anyway. So this was a massive catastrophe for me because I spent 6 years, every ounce of effort and energy that I had. I had dengue fever, West Nile virus, tuberculosis, flesh-eating disease, all trying to save sharks. And all of a sudden, none of that meant anything because the problem was so much bigger. We were wiping out all the fish in the ocean. So I went to Australia and I sort of retreated and thought, okay, well, what am I going to do to tackle this problem, or how do I reconcile all of my efforts? And in Australia, I met up with the godfather of coral. It's a guy named Charlie Varon. He's named at least 30% of all the world's coral species. He's like 75. He knows coral reefs in the ocean better than anybody else on Earth. Spends most of his time underwater. And I went to him to seek advice and say, what are we going to do? Because coral reefs are home to 25% of the world's species. The world's species. Coral reefs are the basis for 60% of the world's fisheries. So I thought Charlie Varon would know what's going on. And Charlie said the problem is way bigger than overfishing. Most of the carbon dioxide we put into the atmosphere doesn't stay in the atmosphere. It gets absorbed by the ocean. The oceans are the biggest regulator of oxygen, carbon, and climate on this planet. So the absorption of carbon causes the oceans to become more acidic. The oceans are 30% more acidic than they were before the Industrial Revolution. And probably from all the boosts in acidity and alkalizing, a few percent acidity change in your blood will kill you. We've made the oceans 30% more acidic than they were before the Industrial Revolution because of our massive emissions of carbon. And Charlie said, 4 out of the 5 mass extinctions in the past that have wiped most life off this planet were caused by ocean acidification. They can prove this, and we're now causing the oceans to go acidic faster than in all 4 of those mass extinctions. We're doing this in an incredibly fast rate, and this is a big, big problem. And this is something that most people don't know about, because ocean acidification and its consequences for animals that build skeletons was only discovered 6 years ago. When chemists, biologists, and physicists sat in the same room for the first time and shared data. So this is brand new in terms of what we know about our environment and where we're going. Climate change is positioned as this massive problem, and it is. But it is nowhere near the size of the problem as losing all life in the oceans and causing a massive extinction. This is a far, far bigger deal. Climate change is a symptom of the problem. The problem is there's too many of us consuming too much, and one of our efforts is carbon dioxide. So ocean acidification, the problem with it. More acidic oceans means that any animal that builds a skeleton in the ocean can no longer form skeletons. And skeletons literally start dissolving if emissions continue at the year 2070. So coral reefs literally start dissolving. Island nations literally start dissolving. They don't just go into water because the sea levels are rising. They go into water because their structural integrity is going into the ocean, dissolving. So anything that builds skeletons in the ocean, what is that? That's phytoplankton. At least 50, likely 80% of the oxygen in the air that we breathe comes from phytoplankton. Fish build skeletons. Coral reefs build skeletons. Most things in the oceans that we know of and depend on build skeletons and are going to have a seriously difficult time with ocean acidification. All except jellyfish, squid, octopus, those things are going to be fine. And they've been fine throughout all the mass extinctions. And we can see throughout those mass extinctions there are times when the oceans go anoxic. no oxygen in the ocean. And right now there are 400 dead zones in the ocean. 400 of them. The biggest one's in the Gulf of Mexico. It's bigger than Connecticut. An area of the Gulf of Mexico with no life and no oxygen. So this is a pretty serious predicament. If you look at the numbers, they're predicting the end of the world's coral reef somewhere around the middle of the century, somewhere around 2070, somewhere in there. So we started to make a movie about this. We figured we needed to know this. And if people change the book after shark water, knowing that sharks are being wiped out, then maybe they go to bat to fight for their own species. It's not just sharks that we need to save now, it's us. If you look at the numbers, by 2050, we'll have no fish, no reefs, no rainforest, and 9 billion people on a planet that can't feed the 7 billion that live here currently. Already 1 billion of us are hungry. 20% of us don't have enough fresh drinking water. So this isn't save the ecosystem, this isn't save the pandas, hug the trees anymore, this is save the humans. What do we need to do to save our ecosystem? We're trying to change the argument a little bit. This is the most important issue on our planet. Nothing compares in size to this. We know from history, from civilizations, from studying the archaeological sites of past civilizations, when humanity gets onto a path like this, when there's too many of us, and not enough food, not enough water, what do? We fight over the remaining resources. So this is a really serious predicament that we're not even beginning to address on a global scale, on a country scale. What do we need to do about this? It's massive. This is massive. So I think we have a really serious issue ahead of us, but I do think there's some positive in all of this, some massive positive. And I'm going to give you a little bit of that now to give you some hope. So after shark water came out, I got a phone call from a grade 6 class on the island of Saipan. I'd be showing you all sorts of videos right now, but I didn't plan this ahead very properly, so I didn't tell them I needed to get to it. But Revolution hits theaters April 12th, and you can visit therevolutionmovie.com for all of our trailers, the information, study guides, a mobile application that shows you how to change the world in the palm of your hand. So I got a phone call from a grade 6 teacher on the island of Saipan in Micronesia. And she said, I showed my class your documentary Shark Water, and they're pissed. And we want to do something about it. So I told them, okay, great, I'll send you some Shark Water DVDs and some books and let me know how it goes. A month later, I get a phone call again saying they managed to get some government policy issued in Saipan and that could I come over to see and help push this through. So I fly to Saipan, we bring a couple of TV crews with us, and we watch a grade 6 class push their government with no information, no public support, no political affiliations. A grade 6 class push their government to make Saipan the second place in the world to entirely ban shark fins. During the creation of our movie Revolution, we got to go to the biggest environmental conferences in the world, meet world leaders, talk about changing our economy so that our economy is not built on growth, changing our government so that our government protects the environment. And it became very difficult for us to change the world. It looked like changing the world was difficult until we saw a grade 6 class do it, just because they didn't know they can't change it. So this revolution is going to be a generational revolution. If you're 55 years old today, confronting these issues means that you must look at your life in a way and see that perhaps your consumptive pattern, your lifestyle, maybe that has been destructive for the planet. And maybe you've already got these systems built around you. You've got the cars, the mortgages, the jobs. And maybe the job and the industry you're working in is destructive. So when we give this information to kids and to young people, they look at the world in 2048 and they imagine being there. They're going to be here front and center. And so I think they're going to be the ones who are going to go to bat for this the most. And one of the reasons why I'm here talking at the yoga show is I don't think you can separate yoga and the environment in any way. Yoga is not just asanas. You know that from everybody here. You can't be doing asanas while the world is crumbling and people are fighting over the last remaining resources, the last food, the last water. You're the most conscious people in this community. So if this message is going to be carried, it's going to be carried by you. We need you to push this revolution.